This is Martin Giles of the Guildford Dragon News, and I'm pleased to welcome Josh Bigmore, the leader of the Residents for Guildford and Villages Party, to the Guildford Dragon to discuss where his party is and where they're heading. So welcome back to the Dragon, Josh.
Hi, Martin. Long time no speak.
Yes, it is. A few months now. Now, and it's also been a while since the Borough Council elections were held 15 months ago, when R4GV was reduced from 15 members to just 7. You've had plenty of time now to analyse that result. What are your conclusions?
What are our conclusions? Obviously, it was thoroughly dispiriting and disappointing election performance. A lot of people put in a hell of a lot of work, time, money over the previous 5 or 6 years, and it felt an incredibly unjust result. And I think it has taken a while for people to process that. It's like the stages of grief, because we did work incredibly hard. And, what are the reasons for why? I mean, we came in to do things. And when you do things, you invariably annoy people because there are no easy decisions left in government. Everything is pretty much a 50-50. We came in and were very energetic, and to my mind, did quite a lot of things. I think some of the things we did alienated some of our core support.
Well, what are you talking? What things you did?
Well, I mean, you could think about the whole. We came in saying we're going to do something about the local plan. The Conservatives then adopted the local plan, which meant that our room for manoeuvre were basically nothing. Now, I'm sure there are a lot of our supporters would want us to immediately review, update, irrespective. And unfortunately, to my mind, and to the mind of a majority of our group, not everybody, that would have been a poor decision. And I'm not the sort of individual that would do something that's politically correct that I think is a poor decision. You compare and contrast. I mean, I'm not comparing myself to Rishi Sunak, but to your mind, do you think Rishi Sunak really thought the Rwanda scheme was good?
Well, I
support it, and
I have no great insight there.
And it's like so for me, and I think for everybody in R4GV, we said we will try and do what we think is the right thing to do. And if that costs us politically, it costs us politically. And to be fair, it cost us politically. Look at North Street. We could have sat on the fence and said, oh, it's a little bit too high. We don't really like it. But actually, we said, look, for 20 years, this has been in the long grass. We have a scheme now that is significantly smaller than when it started. Enormous benefits to public realm. And yes, it is a little bit high for everybody, but on balance, it's a good scheme. And we went heart and soul behind that scheme, and it cost us a hell of a lot of votes. We're now left with a scheme that's a story lower, fatter buildings, and worse public realm. And everyone's like, oh, great, it's fantastic. So I think,
Well, I don't think people are saying that, are they? That people aren't saying it's all great and fantastic.
They are in the council. Everyone that voted for the first scheme is now. So I think we were full of conviction, came in to do things. Probably, in hindsight, weren't very good politicians. And to be honest with you, I don't have any regrets about anything we did. I'm proud of a lot of stuff we did. And, I thought the campaign itself was hijacked.
You're talking about the video now, are you?
Yeah, and we
better explain what you mean by that. So there was the Robin.
Well, I mean, when someone that still makes home videos in his bedroom decides to hijack a campaign, and we're in the kind of world now where people believe TikTok and YouTube, and they haven't got the time or the inclination to actually look at fact, and it just hijacked the campaign, and it had an enormous impact on a lot of our core votes, and obviously to my mind, but I'm biased, to the detriment of the council. But we are where we are. R4GV is now very different. It's smaller. I think the other reflection as well, Martin, is that R4GV was a victim of his own success. Most parties don't get in power the first time they start. And we were very small. We had 15 councillors, 2 other candidates that didn't get elected, and 3 or 4 incredibly energetic support staff. Everyone was so busy in that administration. We had no time to build a base, get members, raise funding. So all of those things that traditional parties have party apparatus to help support. We just didn't have the time or the resource to do it. So we never had, people were lending us votes that were disaffected Conservatives or this, that, the other. And we actually didn't, because we were in the business of leadership and delivering, never really solidified that base. And ultimately, some of those votes went back to where they were lent from. So, I think we were good councillors, poor politicians, and paid the price.
Okay, well, let's look at just a couple of things you raised there. Firstly, the review of the local plan. Given the length of time the review is taking anyway, wouldn't it have been a better option to kick it off when you had the chance?
Well, no, because ultimately that could have weakened our case at appeal against if we'd have declared our plan out of date, given where the housing numbers were, and we've been over this so many times, it could have weakened our arguments at appeal to defend applications that we didn't want if we'd have declared our plan out of date early. So I mean, you're weakening your position. Now, you can do now, like the councillors said, we're going to review the local plan. Nothing will happen for years. Why it's so, there's such a lack of energy? I've got no idea. There is no way the planning policy team are impacted by the issues in housing or the finance, and I have got no vision for what they're trying to do. There's been nothing articulated. And now everything's up in the air again because of central government. And it looks like we're going to have to find God knows how many more sites to put more houses on.
But applications were passed in that period anyway, weren't they?
Yeah, in line with the local plan, but you could have had more. You could have had more windfall sites because we weren't hitting under the standard method. You needed more houses. We didn't have a 5-year housing supply, so then a weighted balance applies, and it reduces the validity of your arguments to say you've got a housing supply. So I mean, okay, as I said, it's all very easy in hindsight. Politically, we made the wrong decision. Hand on heart, I'm very comfortable that we didn't review the local plan early.
Okay. And on the developments, the major developments of Debenhams and North Street, I mean, you actually, I mean, with John Rigg, you actually drove those developments. It wasn't just that you supported them, was it?
Absolutely, and I have no regrets for doing that at all. We have had more positive impact on this town centre in terms of the amount of investment and the amount of life in the high street than any councillor for 20 years, and I stand by those two developments. Okay,
but you do, well, by the sound of it now, you realise there was a significant political cost to that.
Yeah, absolutely, and I have no problem. I came in to regenerate the town, and we have regenerated the town. The fact people think you can regenerate at 3 stories with lovely Victorian terraces is an absolute fallacy. Unfortunately, we're in a capitalist world. There's no way these developments could have happened and kept everybody happy. And the sad thing is, when the voter turnout is 40%. People that are indifferent don't bother to vote. People that have a strong opinion and the people that had a strong negative opinion all came out and voted, and we paid the price. So be it. That is a good thing for the town centre, both those developments, and I stand by them.
Well, that's fine to stand by principles and a good thing, but the trouble is, without power, no political party can exercise control. And yeah,
but I would rather not be in power than compromise my principles.
Okay. And you felt that those developments were so critical to your principles that you had to stand by.
So critical to what we stood on, and so critical to the health of the town.
Okay, right. Let's move on then to the current administration's performance. You've been critical and in the past voted in favour of a no confidence motion against the council leader, saying at the time that the Lib Dems needed to do something radical to reset this administration. Have they?
Well, I mean, I think Julia's improving, to be fair. I think her performance at the last full council when they brought the new corporate plan. Sorry, I thought it was the best she'd ever chaired. The best she'd ever introduced a report. So I think credit to that. I think they have devolved a lot of responsibility to the officers. So all the kind of finance, the corporate plan work. I mean, you've interviewed Pedro twice. I mean, it's like, where's the face of the council at the moment? So whether that's by design or or Pedro's filling a bit of a vacuum. I have no idea. But, you know, they are the council, I don't want to attribute this to, you know, solely the Lib Dems. There is a strong influence from Pedro coming in, building on the work. See, this is the other thing. We came in as R4GV, got into under the bonnet of the council and said, this thing is broken. The culture's horrible. The systems are rubbish. James Whiteman was well aware of it. His solution was Future Guildford. It was implemented terribly. Tom Horwood came in and said exactly the same thing. Pedro's coming in, and it's all building on this work. You know, there was a lot of councillors. There's nothing to see here. Everything's fine. So that's another thing that R4GV are proud of. We were the first ones that talked about culture, tried to drive openness and transparency. Now everyone is singing from that hymn sheet. And, you know, it's a little galling that some of the councillors that said, you can't say that about officers, you don't understand how the public sector works, you're just bullies, you know, all this kind of stuff. And now saying, oh, it's really bad. You know, we've got to do something about the culture. So, you know, Guildford Borough Council is being rebuilt from the bottom up, and that is a good thing. Whether that's being driven by Julia and the executive, whether it's been driven by Pedro and the new executive officers, I don't know. But that is building on work that was started under James Whiteman, through Tom Horwood, and now with Pedro and the new executive team. So, you know, that is ultimately to the benefit of Guildford residents and taxpayers.
Okay, and I just want to say that I am hoping to interview Julia McShane about the corporate plan. It has been discussed, so
yeah,
hopefully that will.
I mean, the corporate plan. I mean, it's a plan, a strategy, a vision, whatever you want to call it. No one can disagree with it. It's a really ambitious vision. I think my issue with it has to be credible, and given the state of the council at the moment, is it credible? But you know, I'm an optimist, you know that. So
Okay.
you know, and it's in all of our, you know, it's in all of our interests that this council succeeds.
Okay, so does your optimism, does that transfer to the finances at the council? What shape?
Martin, you know, I said to you in May 2023, or maybe early June, there is absolutely no way this council is bankrupt, is going to issue anything.
Yeah, you did say that.
I'm on the record. I've been on the record. They kitchen sinked all the bad news and then gradually been increasing the good news. So in fact, we've balanced the budget, found 20 million quid, you know, whatever it was, and all it's cost is a few hanging baskets in the high street. I mean, that's one thing I will not accept, that narrative that got peddled over the state of the finances. It was awful, and the destabilization it caused to officers, to residents about being the next Woking, I thought was really poor. So, you know, Guildford's finances are fine. You know, we have a very strong asset base. You know, we're looking at reducing, you know, underused property to invest you know, you know, the asset disposal is just, for me, that should be business as usual. If you're not using properties properly, then get rid of them and use the money for something else. I mean, I don't see that it's not a fire sale. This is just good housekeeping.
Okay.
So no, and Guildford, you know, is blessed. A strong investment portfolio, car parks. You know, it's blessed with a lot of revenue streams that other councils don't have. Hence the incredible ambition the council has. And you know, you think about all the projects that happen: new crematorium, the new pavilion at the cricket ground, Ash Road Bridge, controversial, but a lot of money, and not many councils do that sort of thing. Blackwater Hotspots road improvements the council did, and you know, moving on, Guildford Park Road, Wayside Urban Village. You know, there's not many borough councils are able to do that, and the ones that do might end up like Woking, which I'm confident Guildford won't be.
Okay, and what about you've mentioned Wayside Village, I think there. What about the finances of that?
I mean, the finances of Wayside Urban Village as we have said, and as I think councillors from all parties have said for the 20 years or so this project's been in the offing, is an incredibly risky project. It's dependent on inflation, both cost and house price inflation. It's dependent on interest rates, and you can only mitigate those risks to a certain extent. You know, there is a lot of upfront expenditure, some being funded by us, some being funded by Thames Water, some being funded by Homes England, you know, in a view to recouping that with house sales at the other end. So there's a lot of uncertainty to that project. But you know, I'm not as close to the project as I was. I haven't got the latest data to hand, but there's you know, a strong team. external consultants as well as in-house officers. And I know external consultants are, seen as bad, but when you've got a project that, is probably $500 million, you need experts and they cost money. And that's, to not have that is penny wise, pound stupid. So we should be investing in the right support to lead those projects. And, it's the ambition of that project. We need a new sewage treatment plant. We need brownfield development. The council and the public sector is the only people that can bring that project forward. And I think it's, yes, it's risky, and I hope we can mitigate the risks. Okay,
well, we are where we are, as the cliche goes. What's the future now for R4GV?
So, I mean, R4GV, as I said before, it's been a pretty traumatic kind of year. Well, traumatic result, and then a lot of what are we doing? Some people are fired up by it, others are, and I was pretty depressed, to be honest, about it. It's like I worked my arse off for 4 years, and then it's like you get slapped in the face and abused on the street when I'm delivering leaflets with my daughter. It was a pretty bruising experience. But there is always a case for residents in local authorities. R4GV has very different people now. We are probably more closely aligned with GGG than we have ever been, given the councillors that got elected. With the threat of more housing, I think we are naturally going to evolve into a different group. Also, the council doesn't
to a single group.
I don't know. I think it would make sense, but I haven't had that conversation. I mean, we've got two really strong candidates at the county. We will be standing to defend those seats. We may look in Ash as well to stand a county councillor, because I think if we don't defend those seats, then what are we doing here? So I think we're having a good think about what is it that we are now, and what is it that appeals to voters. Talking to a lot of people, because I fundamentally believe that there's no space for national politics in local elections. I mean, the other thing in the back of my mind about kind of local government in general is we need to consolidate. I was a passionate driver of Guildford Waverley. Given how much power is centralised in this country, given how little money flows to county councils, boroughs, and the decreasing amount of discretionary spending that councillors can actually do anything about. If you think, the county council gets $1 billion, probably 900 million is already spent on social care and roads. So the actual money, the democratic infrastructure we have is ridiculous for the amount of decision making, real decision making. I mean, if you look at a lot of the stuff that we make decisions on, officers could do it. It's ridiculous. But if you think, so we have, town councils, parish councils, district boroughs, county, thousands of councillors across the country making pretty inconsequential decisions. Something needs to happen. So there's a whole, do we want to start this? Actually, we want 3 unitaries in Surrey. Is there a big thing there? But it's such a dry topic to get voters excited. But council meetings now, I mean, you look at the agenda, and it's like everything's on a nod and a wink, because it's like there's nothing really to debate.
But all the conversations I've had about unitaries, I don't think I've had many people voice opposition to it. It's just how it's done, rather than.
Well, it's because you've got all the competing. If you're in power at the county, the Tories have got no interest in splitting into 3 unitaries, because it would effectively dilute their power, because it's unlikely they'd win all 3.
Yeah.
The Lib Dems probably fancy their chances of taking the county, and they're probably right. So why would they? Because they're like, hang on a minute. so there again, you've got actually, you've got political drivers versus what's right, and that's again when the politics gets in the way of what's actually probably the best solution. But to my mind, we have far too many councillors. We're basically glorified call centres for disgruntled residents. A lot of us. There's not very little kind of meaty decisions being made.
Okay, now
that's so, or the government needs to devolve more decision making with more money, and then we'll all be busy again, which would be great.
Okay, I mean, at the moment, there seems to be still quite a bit of disaffection with the major political parties. I mean, we've got a Labour party in government that only secured 34% of the popular vote. Surely it's an opportunity for R4GV, isn't it?
Well, I think so, but it's again, you need manpower or you need a brand, because it's very difficult for us to stay, which is why we've been pretty quiet. I mean, it's been pretty pointless since the summer's quiet anyway. Then you've got an election, a new government, this, that, everything's so national and party political focus. For us to try and sort of shout, you're just shouting into a tornado. No one's going to listen. So I think as you said, there is no party that has campaigned on a positive vision for this country. Locally, the Lib Dems were campaigning, we're not Conservatives. Nationally, Labour Party were going, well, actually doing a bad impression of the Conservative Party. We're not going to put this tax up. We're going to keep the spending plans. So no one's got any enthusiasm about any of them. It's just we're better than the other people, which is really, really poor. I mean, the country is ripe for a change. I'm pleased the Labour Party won, but their vision is so underwhelming when they've got a huge mandate to actually do something different. And it's so sad. It's like they're so desperate to win. And it's like, well, hang on, what have you won? You've now backed yourself into such a corner. You're having to take winter fuel payments off old people, and you can't get rid of the 2-child benefit cap. It's like, are you the Labour Party or actually the Conservative Party in disguise? It's ridiculous.
Now, I speak to quite a few people, including R4GV councillors. There is some view, I think, that R4GV at the moment has factions. I mean, we've got the 2 councillors in Ash, we've got the 3 over in Clarendon, and then we've got you and Maddie in Guildford. Is that how it appears to you? I guess you're going to say no.
I think you took, for that old cliche, every political party is a broad church, and I think we have, because we're not in power. Everyone has become quite focused on ward issues and local issues. So we probably seem like we're focused on different things. Sue and Dave are very, very keen, that the Ash Road
in Ash we're talking about,
is compliant with what the planning application said. Section 106 being spent appropriately there. Obviously you're well aware of the issues with the development in Clarendon and Horsley, and then me and Maddie have our issues in the town. But it's like we are now basically backbench councillors and ward councillors. There's not really anything to unify until we get to the campaign for the county council elections, and then you'll see a very harmonious group. But it's not we still meet weekly. We still get on very, very well, but it's like it's not like we're working on these big things because we're in the executive or have the leadership.
Okay, and it was interesting what you said about GGG. Just how close is that relationship then?
I mean, it's obviously all the personnel different. It's cordial. We probably need to have a discussion about not getting into each other's way at the county council, and I mean we've been it was a bit unfortunate, some of the circumstance at the last election, but we've always been pretty closely aligned. As ever, these things, it's like, sometimes you're stronger together, sometimes you're better off apart. We probably need to have that sort of discussion, coming into the county council elections, what we're going to do.
Now, I spoke to one keen political observer recently who said R4GV will just disappear. Is that going to happen?
I love these keen political observers that remain anonymous.
Well, I'm respecting their confidentiality, the same as I would yours, Josh.
Exactly. And these keen political observers that will never get off their arse and actually stand themselves.
Okay. I don't think that's that. It doesn't apply in this case.
I mean, R4GV will run an energetic campaign in the county council elections. I think Fiona has done a fantastic job in the town centre. I think, again, I'm biased, but I think the work she's done with the London Road Bike Scheme, there's numerous examples of, road footpath improvements, even the tree outside the grammar school, things like that. She's very involved. Dennis has hit the ground running in Clarendon and Horsley. So, I think they're strong candidates. And as I said, I'm, very hopeful we'll put the Lib Dems under pressure in Ash. Because they've been very silent on a lot of the big issues over there. So and then we'll see where we go. But we're very much rebuilding. and you know, and trying to find that those messages that really resonate with residents. Because as you said, there's no enthusiasm for any political party. It's just, you know, oh, they're better than the others. You know, it's not like I really love that vision. And you know, we found that message in 2019, and it felt like there was a real groundswell of support for what we were trying to do, and we didn't really have it in 2023. It was you know, we had alienated some of our key support, and we hadn't really attracted any new ones, which left us in a bit of a limbo. And I think, you know, we need to get more political, unfortunately, if we want to do well at elections. And you know, we'll see how that develops.
Councillor Just Bigmore, leader of R4GV, thank you very much.
You're very welcome.